I saw Dr. John Carlos speaking at a conference here in Chicago last summer, and I thought he would be a really great speaker to bring on campus. He has a very powerful story to tell. It's one that's very sociologically relevant about how societies change and what kinds of forces drive social change. But it's also a very sort of enlightening story and a very uplifting story, because he was an athlete who was treated pretty badly for doing the right thing, and then it ends up that he was pretty much right, and the world has sort of moved on now and recognized the value of what he had to say. John Carlos was from Harlem, and he was on the U.S. Olympic track team with Tommy Smith, another poor African American from Texas. Two African American men on the U.S. Olympic track team in 1968. It was a time of turbulence and a lot of social change in the world, and Tommy and John were hearing a lot from their fellow athletes and from the African American community. Look, our leaders are being assassinated and we're not getting full equality. You guys need to make some kind of statement at the Olympics to the effect that to demand full equality and civil rights for African Americans. They ended up winning both the gold and the bronze. So when it came time to play the national anthem on the podium when they're handing out the medals, they actually took off their shoes, and they took off their shoes in solidarity with poor people, and then they had black gloves, and they held up their gloved fists in what was called a Black Power salute. And this was considered to be an assertion of black rights and black power and a demand for full equality for African Americans in the late 1960s. White America at that time looked at that as almost an act of treason. They looked at it as traitors. They got punished. They were kicked off the Olympic team. They were hounded. They had a hard time finding jobs, both as athletes or coaches. Those guys had just got done winning medals, and they were kicked off the Olympic team, and within 48 hours they were kicked off the Olympic team. Like, that says something that everybody needs to keep in the back of their head when they think about how the world works and how power works. You'll hear what happened to him, what he went through. It's a good reminder that change can come from below. It's a good reminder that when oppressed people bring attention to their oppression, they frequently get punished, but then ultimately they can work out to have been right after all. And so I think it's an accessible, easy to comprehend sort of way to really talk about a lot of really important issues: civil rights, black history, social movements. All of these sorts of things come together with the John Carlos story. You should go because John Carlos has a good story to tell. It's powerful, it's moving, and it explains a lot about how power works in terms of race, inequality, and social movement.